If you're stuck wondering what to build next, here are 7 projects I would build today if I wanted to become a better developer and build real experience. We will start with simple projects, gradually level them up into real applications, and later in the video I will take one of these projects, put it online, and show you how to turn it into something real that anyone in the world can use. Because that's when projects stop feeling like practice and start feeling real. Project 1, personal portfolio. So let's start simple. Your first project does not need to impress the entire tech industry. It needs to help you build confidence. So the first project on this list is, of course, a personal landing page. No matter what language you're learning, having one simple page to present yourself is super useful. One clean page about you, what you're learning, a few links, and maybe 1 or 2 small projects. And look at my portfolio, for example. It's not some crazy award-winning website, but it did what it needed to do. It showed who I am, what I can build, and gave people a place to actually see my work. That's the point. This project teaches you structure, spacing, colors, responsive design, and how to make something that feels like yours. Then later, you can add dark mode, animations, a contact form, better project previews, or even a small blog inside it. A simple project you fully understand is way more valuable than an advanced project you just copied. And one thing I've learned after coding professionally for more than 10 years is that good projects rarely start impressive. They start simple, a bit messy, and slowly improve over time. That's why for each project, I will show you the basic version first and then how you can level it up. Project 2, Daily Focus Dashboard. The next project is something a little more interactive. Basically, a place where users can manage tasks, track focus sessions, set goals, and maybe even track streaks. And yes, technically, this is similar to a to-do app. But the problem was never the project itself. The problem is that most people stop at the tutorial version, because even a simple project like this can grow a lot. At first, it might just let users add and mark tasks as completed. Simple. But later, you can start adding categories, focus timers, drag and drop tasks, analytics, accounts, or even AI-generated daily planning. And this is where a simple project starts teaching you much more than just syntax. Because now you're not just coding features, you're thinking about the experience. How should this work? How should it feel to use? How do I make it easier for someone to come back tomorrow and continue? That is the real developer thinking. And honestly, a lot of real software is basically just organizing information, tracking things, and making life slightly less annoying. And once you start adding things like accounts, databases, analytics, and real user data, that's where projects stop feeling like practice and start feeling like real applications, which is exactly what we're getting into next. And by the way, there are also a few project traps a lot of people fall into. Let me explain quickly. First one, copying tutorial projects exactly as they are. And look, there's nothing wrong with following tutorials. That's how most of us learn anyway. The problem is when you stop there. Because if your portfolio looks identical to 500 other YouTube tutorials, you're not really showing how you think. Even small changes make a huge difference. Change the design, add one feature, solve it in your own way. That's what makes projects really stand out. Another mistake is trying to build something way too advanced too early. Some people try building the next Facebook after learning variables 3 days ago. That's like going to the gym for the first time and trying to bench press 200 kilos. That's impossible. You're just going to hurt yourself. Start smaller, finish something, then level it up. And that's how real progress happens. And one more thing, build projects you actually care about. If you love fitness, build fitness projects. If you love gaming, build gaming related projects. If you love productivity, build productivity tools. Because when you actually care about the idea, you're way more likely to keep improving it instead of abandoning it after a couple of days. And now let's move into projects that start feeling like real applications. Project 3, Travel Planner Dashboard. One really good example is a travel planner dashboard. So instead of just showing static information, users can search destinations, check weather, save trips, build itineraries, and maybe even track budgets. And this is where projects start becoming really fun, because now your app is interacting with real world data. You're learning how to fetch data, handle loading states, deal with errors, and turn messy information into a clean interface. At first, this project can stay pretty simple, like search a city and display information, maybe say favorite destinations, done. But later, you can level it up with maps, trip planning, collaboration, budgets, or even AI travel recommendations. And you know, recruiters usually care less about the idea itself. They care more about the decisions you made while building it and the experience you gained from actually solving those problems. Because this is where projects stop feeling like beginner exercises and start feeling like something people could actually use. And by the way, my favorite project on this list is still coming up. Not because it's the most impressive, but because it teaches the biggest lesson in the entire video. Project 4, Habit Tracker. Another project that looks simple but teaches a lot is a habit tracker. And the reason this project is so good is because so many real applications are basically about tracking behavior, organizing information, and visualizing progress. At first, your app might just let users add habits, mark them as completed, and track streaks. Simple. But then later, you can start adding charts, reminders, user accounts, analytics, social features, or even personalized suggestions based on user behavior. And this is where you slowly start thinking less like, how do I finish the project? And more like, how do I improve the experience? That shift is one of the biggest mindset changes in development. Because now you're not just coding features, you're thinking about users. Project 5, Expense Tracker. Now, this next project is one of my favorite projects for learning how real applications grow. An expense tracker, because this is the perfect example of a project that evolves with your skills. At first, it can be super simple. You can add expenses, group them by category, calculate totals, done. But then later, you can start adding charts, monthly reports, user accounts, budgets, recurring expenses, databases, maybe even connect it to real APIs. And if you keep improving it, this can become genuinely impressive. Things like AI-generated financial insights, receipt scanning, spending analysis, budget recommendations, and suddenly, this is not just a beginner project anymore. And honestly, this is the lesson I want you to take from this whole video. Most developers don't become better because they start more projects, they become better because they finish and improve the ones they already started. Because most professional software isn't built in one weekend. It evolves slowly, feature by feature, problem by problem. And most developers probably have at least 10 finished final versions of a project somewhere saved on their computer. Up until now, we've been talking about ideas. This is where things start getting real. Now, if you take this expense tracker seriously and you keep improving it over time, at some point, it shouldn't just live on your computer anymore. You want people to actually use it, friends, recruiters, real users, and clients, or even just somebody checking your portfolio. Because a project changes completely once it's online. Because now people can actually interact with something you build. So let's say we actually built this expense tracker and now we want to host it properly and make it accessible from anywhere in the world. This is where something like a VPS becomes really useful. And don't worry if terms like VPS sound too technical. It isn't. VPS stands for Virtual Private Server. And it's basically like having your own computer on the internet that can run your projects 24/7, which is incredibly useful once you start building more serious applications. Especially if you want to learn real-world development skills beyond just writing code on your machine. So for the purpose of this video, I partnered with Hostinger, which I use to host most of my personal projects, and I believe it's a great example. The first thing I would do is head over to Hostinger's VPS page. What I like here is that it's really clean and easy to follow, especially if this is your first time dealing with hosting or deployment. Now, for something like our expense tracker project, I would go with the KVM2 plan because it gives you enough flexibility and resources to comfortably run full stack projects, experiment with backend, databases, and full stack applications, so your projects have room to grow. And another thing worth mentioning, if you already know you will keep learning and building projects long term anyway, the 24-month option usually is your best option. The monthly price is lower, you get a free domain included, and you basically lock in the cheaper pricing from the start. then right here, you can also enter the coupon code DEVELOPIT for an extra 10% off. You're welcome. And after that, the setup process is honestly much simpler than most people expect. You basically choose your setup. I can choose an operating system later, it doesn't really matter at this point. Complete the onboarding, and then you're ready to start deploying your projects online. Deployment is one of those things that sounds way more complicated than it actually is. Once you do it once, a lot of things suddenly start making sense, believe me, because this is where your projects stop feeling like practice and start feeling real. So once the VPS is ready, you will land inside the dashboard where you can manage your server and environment. And honestly, this is the part that used to intimidate me the most when I was learning. But once you actually go through the process, you realize that it's much more manageable than it sounds. From here, you can set up the environment, upload the project, configure the app, and deploy it properly. So for this example, I will deploy the expense tracker project we talked about earlier. And this is the part I really like, because suddenly the project is no longer just sitting on localhost on your computer. It's actually live. You can access it from anywhere, open it on your phone, share it with friends, send it to recruiters, post it on our Discord server, or include it directly in your portfolio. Seriously, this is one of the coolest feelings as a developer, when something you built actually exists online and other people can actually use it. So if you want to experiment with deploying your own projects properly, I will leave hosting linked below, and don't forget to use code DEVELOPIT for an extra 10% off. And now let's move into projects that start feeling even more like real world software. Project 6, Collaborative Notes app. One project that instantly starts feeling more professional is a collaborative notes app. Basically, a place where users can write notes, organize them, share them, and maybe even edit together in real time. And projects like this teach you a lot about how modern applications actually work. Now, you're dealing with user accounts, databases, saving information, syncing changes, sharing content, and multiple users. At first, this can stay pretty simple. Create notes, edit them, save them, done. But later, you can start adding folders, markdown support, real-time collaboration, team workspaces, or even AI-generated summaries. And this is usually the point where projects stop looking like tutorial projects and start looking like actual software. Because now you're solving problems that real applications solve every day. Project 7, AI Study Planner. And finally, one of the most interesting types of projects you can build right now are projects that use AI in a practical way. For example, an AI study planner, something where users can enter how much time they have, what they're struggling with, what they want to learn, and the app helps generate a personalized study plan. This is the kind of AI projects I like. Not replacing learning, but improving the experience around it. Because now you're building applications that can adapt to different users and feel personal. At first, this project could stay really simple. A few inputs and a generated response. Done. But later, you can start adding progress tracking, saved learning paths, adaptive recommendations, analytics, or even personalized feedback over time. Projects like this stand out because they combine multiple areas together: UI, logic, APIs, user experience, personalization, and problem solving. And that combination is what makes a project much more valuable. Look, one of the biggest signs you're improving as a developer is when you stop asking, what tutorial should I watch next? And instead start asking, what can I build next? Because that's when you stop only consuming information and start turning it into actual skill. And one more thing I want you to remember is that most of the best project ideas come from your own life. Something annoying you deal with every day. A problem you wish had a simpler solution. A tool you wish existed. That's usually where truly interesting projects come from. So don't feel like you need to build the next Facebook or invent some billion-dollar startup idea. A huge part of software development is just solving annoying problems and making life a little easier. So don't try to build all of these projects at once. Pick one. Not your favorite 3, not your favorite 5. One. Start simple. Make sure to build the basic version first and slowly improve it over time. That's literally how developers grow. And by the way, I also put together a free list with 20 more project ideas in case you want extra inspiration after this video. Link is below. Let me know in the comments which one you're building next. And by the way, the reason this video exists is because so many of you asked for project ideas. So if you want a part 2, tell me what category you want next. Mobile applications, Python, Java, game development, AI, whatever gets requested the most, I will include in a future video. If you want to see how you can actually add AI into your own projects in a practical way, watch this video next because AI becomes way more interesting once you stop treating it like magic and start using it as a tool inside real applications. Don't forget to check out Hostinger, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe. It really means a lot to me. Thanks for watching, you legends. I'm Pete, and I'll see you on the next one.